Welcome to this episode of the Astrology of Family Karma and Relationships podcast. I'm your host, Alexander Mallon, also with our special guest today, a wonderful Laura Sklover, fantastic astrologer, intuitive.
Yay.
Hello.
Yeah,
Hello.
also have to have you, Laura.
Oh, nice to see you guys.
And also with our co-host.
Yeah, you know me, Sheila G., the guide on the side.
Indeed.
Sheila
So
G.
today, folks, we're going to be discussing the topic, is Biden in or out? We're talking here together in the middle part of the month of July 2024, and the media has it all over the airwaves. What's happening with the presidential race? What's happening with Joe Biden since his recent fantastic performance in the last debate, which was certainly notable. It'll go down in history as a special moment. And of course, it begs the question, is Biden in as a candidate, our Democratic candidate, or out? And if he's out, who's in? So that's
that is the question. Yeah.
That is the question. And Laura, there were a bunch of possibilities that we might be discussing today.
Oh, yeah. Well, Gavin Newsom's name's been floating around a lot. He's denying being interested, but I don't know. I think after that debate, we have to really consider that Biden may be out. So, maybe we want to look at his chart first. What do you guys think?
Yeah, but by all means, we can look at Biden's chart, obviously, and have the audience, those who are watching us on YouTube, you'll be able to see the charts of the different candidate possibilities we're going to bring up there. Of course, Trump and Biden particularly. And for those who are listening, we'll describe and do our best to share with you what we're seeing and what sort of stands out from these charts astrologically that give us some clues, not only as to Biden's wellness, but also as to the whole sort of issue of candidacy and the general zeitgeist, what's happening in the mindset of not only America, but internationally. Ladies, I saw a little snippet on the boob tube the other day with Volodymyr Zelensky from Ukraine being interviewed, and they asked him, are people in Europe watching what's happening in the US regarding this debacle of Biden and his poor performance? Are they watching it and keeping abreast of it? Are they informed? I think Zelensky said, like constantly, like we're only watching it like all the time, like it means everything. And that is, I think, a very important statement that Vladimir made at this time. Really, this time period, 2024, I have said, Laura and Sheila, that I think astrologically speaking, we see some very strong similarities against the birth chart of the US that we saw during our first Civil War. That's number one. Number two, we see very big Pluto cycles that we saw, in fact, when our nation was born. And whenever a national charts, I'm thinking about the chart of Great Britain, by the way. When I'm speaking about the US, I'm thinking about the chart of Great Britain, because when we look at the Pluto placement right now against the US chart, a Cancer nation, July 4th, 1776, and we look at the Pluto placement in the sky right now in Capricorn Aquarius against the Great Britain chart. Great Britain's chart given is a Capricorn nation. So here we are. Laura first brought it up a few weeks ago, didn't you, Laura, that July of 24 and June of 24, we have two back-to-back sun and moon, full moons in Cancer, Capricorn.
Cancer, yeah.
Yeah.
So it implies our nation, it implies Great Britain, which are both Cancer, Capricorn nations, maybe having big things happening right now. Of course, we just saw what happened with the Prime Minister in the UK. That's the Labour Party has now finally taken over there. So big things are really happening. Astrology usually mirrors that, right? That's why we do it.
Yes.
So we're going to explore these topics and others to try to get a handle on this. So by the way, we want to make sure for those of you listening and watching to please indeed follow our podcast on Apple and Spotify, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are still a fairly new program, and obviously we hope that the search engines will recognize our existence out there. So the more we have followers and subscribers, the more likely we'll come up on search engines and have other viewers participate and share with us. So thanks for your following and subscriptions, folks.
And you know, on YouTube, I think, and I'm not sure about all of the other platforms that you're on, but I know on YouTube you can actually make comments. You can if you like an episode or you want to comment on something, you can do that as well on YouTube. So that might be something, because that might be a nice way to get some feedback also.
Feedback
Certainly.
is always helpful.
Yeah, we
And
welcome that.
keep in mind, we have Laura today, Laura Sklover, our wonderful astrologer intuitive guest speaker and lecturer. So those of you who want to get in touch with Laura for a consultation, please also reach out and be sure you can comment, you can follow, you can subscribe, you can reach out to us through our website, and we will love to connect you. So yeah, the theme today is Biden in or out, and if not Biden, who? Yeah,
Love the graphic.
that's a classic little screenshot here. Yeah, we had to, I had to inject some levity, ladies. We need levity at this time, because otherwise I might start crying, depending on what's happening.
Yeah, we must not
day.
despair.
We'll try to. We'll be crying on each other's shoulders.
That's right. Well, yeah, listen, it sounds, I am as Sheila will say, I am a Cappy, and since I'm a Capricorn born after holiday season's over, January 7th, I'm a crappy Cappy. And so I don't want to be too crappy a Cappy when we're discussing these really important times with Capricorn Cancer. The two full moons of both June and July are Capricorn Cancer full moon, which is unusual to have two back-to-back months. So mid-summer here of 2024 is a Capricorn Cancer summer, ironically, in that way. And it's serious. Capricorn's born wintertime. When you're born wintertime, like me, you may be a crappy Cappy too. It's a serious time of year. It's a serious time that we're in right now. And I don't think we can really understate it, although we have to really find our way. We have to all collectively find the solution, go to the light, go to the light, go to the lightsaber.
Yeah.
And find our way. And of course, I think this is no time to get caught up in hitting the golf course. I think there are a few things that are more important now than whether Biden or Trump challenge each other on the golf course. I think, fellas, septuagenarians, octogenarians, there's a little bit of other things going on out there than riding in a golf cart.
Yeah.
We got to get it together, guys.
Yeah.
I don't know what you ladies think.
Maybe they were trying to add a little levity. I don't know.
Yeah.
maybe
Biggest thing is, yeah.
No.
Indeed.
Too funny.
Well, I have this slide, ladies, because I wanted to remind myself.
Yeah.
Everything has a season. And astrology, after all, astrology is about seasons. Astrology is about your sun sign, your season sign. Everything has a season. There's a season for achieving. There's a season for throttling back. And I think that we all need to, as Laura brought up earlier, right, to invoke our some spiritual mindedness, that there really is a balance and a flow that we can strike, if especially we put our minds to it, right, Laura?
Oh yeah, yeah. And Sheila's very spiritual as well, so she's right in there with that, right, Sheila?
Certainly, and also big believer in prayer. So I'm praying for our country, that we all come together for the good of all.
So the slide we have, folks, who are listening, we have a slide that shows the 4 seasons: the season of spring, fire, earth, air, water. Fire, earth, air, water. The journey of the sun every season, describe it, or even each sign, I should say, each subseason. This journey of nature, because that's what astrology always is all about: cycles of nature, to understand cyclicity and that things come and go, the day dawns and the night falls. There is a natural rhythm that we have to keep in mind. And when we look at these charts, I always want to invoke this idea of charts describing this natural rhythm, this natural sort of nature's cycles that we all are subject to. Here's a chart of the US, July 4th, 1776. I use the 5:10 p.m. versus the roughly 2 a.m., 2:10 a.m. chart. I use the 5:10 p.m. chart in Philadelphia. They believe, the researchers, that the Constitution was signed in the afternoon, not in the early morning, but there's debate
Makes
about
sense.
this.
It makes sense. Yeah.
I use this, they call it Sibley, the Sibley chart that has 12 degrees of Sagittarius rising. And the reason I use this chart is that 9/11 had Pluto, the planet of life, death, and transformation. Pluto, whose cycles are concordant with Pluto's discovery, 1930. So think about the 1930s when Pluto was discovered and the beginning of the brown shirts in World War II, and the rise of Nazism began. Hitler's rise began with a Pluto being discovered. And we are going through a powerful Pluto cycle as a nation right now. When we take our chart and plop in Pluto's discovery, our chart, July 4th, 1776, we plop in Pluto's discovery in 1930 to this chart, astrologers then said, oh my gosh, Pluto's opposite the whole US chart. The US chart's premise, our nation's birth premise, was to oppose plutocracy, oppose monarchy.
Yes.
We have a Venus-Pluto opposition right now. And I'm sorry, go ahead, Alex.
No, please, you were saying.
No, I was just saying, well, we have a Venus-Pluto opposition right now. With Pluto being in Aquarius and Venus being in Leo, just entered Leo. Was it yesterday or the day before? And so I think that theme, even though it's not exactly what you're talking about here, it's still at play, you know.
So what I was saying that you're highlighting, Laura, is that here's the Pluto placement in our birth chart, 1776.
Right.
Pluto's orbit is a 248-year orbit. So astrologers in 1930, when they plopped it into this chart, said, wow, well, what happens when Pluto does a full circuit, a 248-year circuit, which occurs in 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. So Pluto in the sky right now is back right about here, back right at where it was when we were born, which is a significant configuration. Pluto over the next 20 years will be approaching the US moon. And the moon in political charts describes the people. It also describes women, by the way. The moon, like moon cycles.
Yes.
Pluto's life, death, rebirth. Moon is moon cycles. Pluto's there in the sky right now, hovering in early Aquarius. And you were just saying, Laura, that Venus, feminine, and Pluto are opposite each other right now in the sky?
Right, right. And well, basically what I was saying is, you know, because of that being activated again, it just brings up that opposition. And even though we're not talking about exactly being activating the United States of America chart, by degree, it's still, as an astronomer, you might say, that is active, you know, and that's playing out. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen just even in the next week, while that's, you know, still in orb. Kind of curious about that.
So you're looking at July, the month of July,
This
with
next
this Capricorn.
week in particular, I think, is going to be loaded.
Well, we're having in June of 24 and July of 24, two concurrent moon-sun oppositions, two full moon cycles that involve the Cancer sun, June and July, and the moon in Capricorn. So the full moon of June 24 and July 24, back-to-back months, are highlighting this opposition in the US chart, right?
Oh yeah.
And you said, Laura, that Venus is involved transiting in the sky. Transiting Venus is further intensifying that
Intensifying,
opposition in the
exactly.
US chart right now. So the months
And-
of June, July are really hot months.
So we'll have to see what plays out next week, because there is the Republican convention starting Monday. And
Oh, there is, you know. I
so
didn't even-
yes, and so
Yeah.
it's an intense week. We'll see what happens.
Well, and full moons, don't full moons bring, well, I always say full moons astronomically. I always think of harvest moon, right? Full moons bring illumination at night. Full moons bring illumination at night, so you can see, like harvest moon. But a full moon also means there's the sun on one side of the sky, observationally, and the moon on the other. So when the moon rises at full moon, the sun sets, or when the sun sets, the moon rises. Full moon, they're opposite. They're like a seesaw. So I always think of oppositions, which we have in the US birth chart of this Mercury sun, Mercury specifically, opposite Pluto, this big bundle or stellium in the US chart, opposite Pluto, that we have this big opposition in the US birth chart, which discusses either we have a good seesaw ride if we have a good partner, or you have a bad seesaw ride. And so the full moon of June 24 and the full moon in Capricorn near this birth Pluto of the US chart in July 24, it accentuates the full moon swing. It accentuates this opposition in our national birth chart.
Right.
Now, coincident with that, we've had a number of powerful themes. We've had Biden's catastrophic debate with Trump the other day.
Yeah.
We have the GOP convention coming up. We have issues around women's rights, and we have the ruling of the Supreme Court during these two full moons that are on the US Pluto. Let's remember Pluto, when we discovered it in 1930, Pluto's discovery in 1930 is coincident with plutocracy. There was an abundance of plutocrats in the 1930s. We had Stalin and Hitler, Mussolini and Franco. So we had an overabundance of plutocrats in the 1930s. We had plutocrats and plutocracy that we escaped and built our nation upon in 1776, the sun of the US opposite Pluto. So the theme of plutocracy and power, Pluto is also like plutonium, also nuclear power, plutonium.
Right.
So we're having those highlighted themes right now with these full moons. And of course, the Supreme Court basically just handed the monarchy to Trump if Trump gets reelected, that a president can do whatever they damn well want without any legal repercussions.
Right.
And
So-
a plutocrat is someone who derives their power from having lots of wealth and dominion over people. So that's one reason why we
That's
should be
right.
concerned.
We should be very concerned. So if back to what we were, brought us here today. If Biden's out, who might be in?
Okay, Alexander, I think what you're trying to stress again with Joe's chart is that the country is undergoing a big Pluto cycle, and so is Joe Biden. He's under a lot of stress to get out of the race, but even though his chart aligns well with the U.S., he's Sagittarius rising, and his 4 years of presidency has been very beneficial for the U.S. But under all of the stress, let's take a look at who else is out there that could help lead this country forward and continue the dream that our founding fathers had about our country.
Well, let me bring up the Astro software here to help that effort. So there's the U.S. chart, as I said, and maybe I could wrap a chart around that and show the viewers exactly what's happening right now, today's date and time.
Okay.
And show what those big cycles are. Of the US chart in the center wheel, like astrologers do, and the transits wrapped around the outer wheel. And there's that Venus Pluto that Laura, you were talking about.
Right.
And one of the key things also, just for the viewer and the listener, is those big outer, long, slow-moving astrological cycles. There's that Pluto back where it was. The Pluto has done a full circuit, 248 years. So the U.S. chart's having a Pluto return. Its very first Pluto return, which every time other nations had that, like Great Britain, whenever Great Britain has a Pluto return or opposition, they go through their own major reconstruction, which is what we're having right now. So there's that Pluto cycle on the US chart. And then we can look also too, we were just discussing Joe, that Pluto cycle on Joe's chart, opposite his Pluto, Pluto in the sky transiting square his moon. So that indicates those big, sweeping, massive changes, just like we're seeing in the US chart. Pluto, Plutonic, big, sweeping, massive changes for our national identity. Pluto in Joe's chart, big, sweeping challenges for Joe. But Sheila, yeah, you were just making a comment that that the U.S. chart has Sagittarius rising, and that Joe Biden also has Sagittarius rising.
So if not Joe, who else should they be looking at to, if they really want to get rid of Joe?
Well, we have a couple of different charts. We've got Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Yeah, let's keep that up for a second. Let's before you switch to someone else, because that one's pretty interesting. If you want to put up the U.S. chart with it, like sort of like a synastry chart.
Oh, you want the U.S. on the inside or the outside?
What? It's up to you.
Whatever helps you read it is okay with me. So there's the U.S. chart. This is what we do between people, right? We call it synastry. We take one person's chart and compare it to another person's chart. So here's Robert F. Kennedy on the outside wheel.
Right.
So U.S. chart on the inside wheel, that July 4th, 1776, that 13 degrees Cancer sun in this big bundle for the U.S. And Robert F. Kennedy has his moon in Cancer.
His moon in Cancer is directly on that sun. So the moon is at home in Cancer. And he feels, he's been very passionate about, coming out and running. And obviously now he has to be, he can't run on the Democratic ticket, right? They won't take him. So he's running independently. And he feels it, like it's to him, this is personal. He needs to do this for the country. He really feels like he needs to do this. Now, is he the right man for the job? Let's look at this a little bit more. You know what I'm noticing? That Pluto and Venus right now are right on his ascendant and descendant, activating there. Isn't that interesting?
That's Robert Kennedy. Let me bring up his chart solo. So you're saying that the Pluto and Venus in the sky right now are right on his chart. Pluto at that area of partnership, that part of a birth chart that deals with marriage and partnering. And Pluto's about plutocrats. Pluto's about power. That's so that Pluto's a long-term cycle. He's just had Pluto move across his Capricorn stellium here, right, Laura?
That's right. That's right.
What would that mean for a person?
Well, I mean, obviously he's going through some major changes in his life. It could, obviously there's health issues, and we know he has encountered some health issues with his voice. That's been something, although that happened a while ago. But he's, he's hard to listen to. He admittedly says that about himself. Could there be a possibility of his mortality coming up? Maybe. Or maybe it's about the fact that he can rise to the occasion here. Well,
so, astrological cycles not only are concordant with, mirror what literally unfolds. So if a person has transiting Pluto, let's take the chart for now and wrap it around. We're going to wrap what's happening around Robert's
The
chart.
transits.
So here we go, the transits, right? So there's that Pluto that's on his marriage angle, his partnership angle for the entire next couple of years, 2023 through 2027, at least.
Mhm.
Highlights Robert's ability to connect with people in a partnering manner. So Laura, were you just pointing out that Pluto has just, for the last 3 years, swept across all of his Capricorn planets. And because he has a full moon baby chart, again, like we've got Donald Trump, a full moon baby. We've got, Joe Biden, almost a full moon baby. And we've got Robert F. Kennedy, another full moon baby, where the
Right.
moon on one side, the sun on the other. So when you have a transit of, let's say, Pluto to one side of the opposition, the other side of the seesaw gets hit as well. So that means Pluto has swept across Robert's, and I'll try to show the chart all by itself. Pluto has swept across here in Capricorn, all across Robert's Capricorn, Venus and Sun and Mercury, and opposing Robert's Moon and Uranus.
And
Uranus
let's
deals.
not, yeah, and I'm sorry to talk
No.
over you, but let's not forget it also just hit his north node and north node, right? North node, south node axis there. So he was born just after an eclipse
As
himself,
was Donald Trump, born during
like
a
Trump,
lunar eclipse.
yes, very similar. But what I'm liking about his chart is the conjunction that it has with Venus and the Sun and Mercury. And so this is somebody who is fated at least to make his mark. Where it goes, is he going to be the next president or ever be a president? I don't know. But this is his time right now to step out and at least make a go of it.
Well, that is.
Do you want to pull up his chart with the not with the transits, with the United States chart?
Oh, let me see here.
What do you think about?
So there's the U.S. chart in the inner wheel and
Right.
Robert F. in the outer wheel.
So, I can't help but notice also, the opposition that he has to a lot of those planets in the United States chart, as well as the conjunction that he has, right? He's got, his sun is at 27 and Pluto is at 27 in the United States chart.
Well, let's take that one. Well, let's take these two configurations in Robert F. Kennedy's chart that are on the U.S. chart. Again, for the viewer, here's the U.S. chart with the Cancer Sun and the Pluto opposite the Cancer Sun. That Pluto Moon, kind of a pattern there at the bottom of the U.S. chart. And we're going to have that as an inner wheel and wrap Kennedy's chart around that. Where was it? No, what happened to it? There it is. There it is. So the two things that leap off the page you're saying, Laura, is this Moon 13 degrees Cancer for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on the U.S. Sun at 13 degrees Cancer. One of the things that reminds me of, Laura, is that Carl Jung did a study of the best pairings of husband and wife or partners, romantic marital partners, the best marriages specifically, come between someone's sun-moon conjunction. So when you are, whatever your sun sign is, ideally, you might want to find a marital partner whose moon sign is in the same sign as your sun sign.
Right.
Well, so if we want to find a good marriage partner for the U.S., which is a Cancer, 13 degrees Cancer nation, we want to find someone with a moon in Cancer. Well, here, Robert F. Kennedy has his moon in Cancer, but also right exactly by degree on the U.S. sun. And Carl Jung's study, I think it was like 720 sampling or 750 sampling, showed the best marriages were a moon-sun conjunction, especially exact by degree. This says that we have a perfect fit of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. with the U.S., the essence, the sun, the life force, of the US chart. Now, because Robert F. Kennedy's a full moon baby himself, sun opposing moon, if his moon is on the US sun, that means Robert's sun is opposing the US sun as well. So Robert's sun is opposing the US sun, Robert's sun at 27 of Capricorn, Robert born January 17th, January 17th of 1954. So that sun at January 17th, 1954 is at 27 degrees of Capricorn, right on the US Pluto.
Right.
So the sun moon conjunction is beautiful of his chart to ours, our US chart. How about that sun Pluto?
Right. How does that play out? And, you know, then you have to look at, if we're looking at the sun, which makes, you know, pretty much an exact conjunction off by a couple of degrees, we have to, that stellium he has there is right there. And so all of that is at play at the same time. And that's one of the reasons why I think he's getting so much traction. There's right now, it's at least his moment for the right now. And, you know, this election. Whether or not he'll, I'm sorry?
Well, his full moon Cancer Capricorn chart that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has in his birth chart, that again mirrors the two full moons Cancer Capricorn of June and July 2024. We got two full moons.
Oh, I didn't even think
Cancer Capricorn this summertime of 2024, and it's all over Robert F. Kennedy's chart like crazy, and it's all over the U.S. chart like crazy. And so these two full moons are highlighting both the U.S. and Robert. So those are two really key possibilities to consider here. But, you know, I look at the sun of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. at 27 Capricorn in his birth chart, right on that 27-degree Pluto of the U.S. chart. His sun is on the plutonium of the U.S. chart. Does that mean that he would be a person to transform our energy consumption, our energy usage? Would he transform what we do with the sustainable energies that we're moving into versus traditional carbon-based fuels that we've been using that are not going to go away? There's nobody looking at major energy systems who's considering getting rid of oil and gas. That's not going to happen overnight. But Robert F. Kennedy's chart seems to be right on the U.S. Pluto, right on the U.S. plutonium. Now, let's not forget, Robert F. Kennedy was a very big proponent of environmental protection laws. Let's not forget, Donald Trump is the exact opposite, has the exact opposite position, Donald Trump, with the United States and its energy policies.
Right.
So Donald Trump, he just said, drill, baby, drill. When I'm president again, drill, baby, drill. He's like, the hell with all this nonsense, Donald Trump says, about environment and environmental collapse and sea level rise and temperature. Ignore it all. Just worry about profits. That's Donald Trump's message.
Okay, so Alexander, as the student here, I don't try to play an astrologer in this podcast, but
right.
So if we're looking at these different individuals, we're looking at, okay, if not Joe, who? So how does Robert fare up with our the U.S. chart as a candidate? And then can we just do a quick run through?
So my quick assessment, Robert is a powerful firebrand that is going to absolutely create a massive social political dynamic. He plugs right in to the U.S. opposition. His chart, his full moon chart, right on both poles of the U.S. opposition, says that Robert, if he's president, is going to create a huge sort of explosive restructuring. Whether that will be coming together or whether he will intensify polarization is to be discussed. But I think Laura and Sheila, his sun on the U.S. Pluto, you know, we are at a time with Putin and Xi and Little Rocket Man in North Korea. Plutonium is a key theme. You know, this Pluto return that we're having as a nation brings up a theme of plutonium. When I saw this 30 and 40 years ago, as a young practitioner, I was concerned about plutonium themes for 2020. And now we have Vladimir Putin warning us about plutonium themes. So I think that Robert Kennedy Jr. will definitely bring up themes of energy. And frankly, this could be more of a war hawk kind of arrangement. What do you both think?
Well, I've heard him speak, and so he does bring up energy. And he does seem to have a, from what I've heard so far, a creative way to transition.
From
So,
the fossil fuels to something more
right,
environmentally friendly.
right. That's right.
So I haven't listened to him. So you're saying, Laura, you've actually heard him continue to propound ideas that started his career. Those of us, I grew up in New York, so we were seeing Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as our hero 30 years ago in cleaning up the Hudson River. He was a key personage to jump in there and really go against the corporate interests who are polluting the Hudson River. So if he, maintains that platform, I'm a happy person, but corporate America will be less happy.
Okay, so next.
Right, well, yeah. So who else do we have?
Yeah.
Let's see. We were talking about Newsom.
Well, we have Michelle.
Oh, Michelle Obama. Yeah.
Michelle came up in the news as a would-be candidate that people would love her or want her. I think Laura, actually, you brought up Michelle particularly.
Yeah, I think if she were to run, she could really she could maybe take it and beat Donald Trump. And wouldn't it be nice to see the Obamas back in the White House? I don't think she wants to do it though, but her name is being floated. When you look at that chart, and again, we have her at noon in this one, but it said her moon then would be 0 degrees Pisces, which means if she was born earlier in the day, it would be Aquarius. And I could see both of those. What are your thoughts?
Well, my first thought, ladies, is that she is born, Michelle, January 17th, 1964. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is born January 17th,
Oh my gosh,
1954.
I didn't even realize that. Wow.
January 17th, the same birthday for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Michelle Obama.
Wow.
One is born in 64, Michelle, and one is born in 54,
Wow.
Kennedy. So therefore, if Robert F. Kennedy's sun is at 27 degrees of Capricorn on January 17th and can join the Pluto power of the US, Michelle's chart will also have her sun, therefore, on the US chart in terms of themes of power. So let's look and see what that looks like. If Michelle, and by the way, if Michelle were to become president, then that means that Barack would be the first husband, not the first lady, the first husband.
That would be cool.
So here, Michelle has a Sun, Mars, Saturn conjunction. I look at it as a big stellium. Sun in Capricorn, 27 degrees, almost right on the US Pluto. So 26, 27 for the Sun for Michelle.
And
her Mars is next to her
Pluto
Sun,
is
her
approaching
Saturn,
her Mars, right?
Yeah, her Sun and Mars and Saturn are all conjoined together. But I look at this Sun, Mars particularly, but to me, it's an entire stellium of involving really her Capricorn Mercury. I use very wide orbs, and I see astronomically from an astronomer's lens, literally in my case, at the eyepiece as often as I can be. I see this big bundle in Michelle's chart falling on the US chart. Michelle's Sun falls on the US Pluto, opposing the US Sun and Mercury. Michelle's moon at 0 degrees Pisces or late Aquarius falls right on the moon of the US.
And what about her let's see, her north node is right on the sun of the US.
Her north node at 11 degrees of Cancer, pardon me, is right on the 13-degree sun of the U.S. North node in a birth chart in Western astrology, right? Isn't that given to what's positive growth?
Right.
I call it dharma. I call it dharma versus karma. In other words, initiative, taking intentional initiative to restructure or birth something.
So I think she would be great for women. She would definitely be securing women's rights and mothering the nation in the sense that we had with all of our men
Absolutely.
presidents.
Her moon is almost the same
And
degree as the
I
US moon.
wonder, I don't know if we can do that, but it would be interesting if you would put her, let's say, at 6 a.m. Would her moon be at like 27 degrees? I wonder if her moon is right on the moon of the United States of America chart.
Yeah, her moon is so close as to not even, I mean, astrologers generally like to be very exacting. Like they try to make they try to make a science out of astrology and make it exactingly accurate, which I think is definitely a noble effort. But you know what? I look at life as cycles, sweeping cycles. And I think, frankly, whether her moon is exactly on the US moon, it's more powerful an idea. It's still powerful as it is. Michelle has a moon-Venus conjunction together in Pisces, which is loving spirit. One of the 4 royal stars of Egypt is 3 degrees Pisces, Fomalhaut, and to have Venus conjunct Fomalhaut, a sign of a star in one of the lower fish of Pisces. It's one of the 4 royal stars marking the turn of seasons. So to have her Venus moon on a royal star on the U.S. moon, well, I think it sort of says she is the female royalty. She is the feminine royalty.
Yeah.
And as Sheila, as you said, moon is nurturing, like a moon cycle, a woman's moon cycle. So moon on moon, she's a mother figure nurturing. Moon Venus conjunction, a loving, nurturing mother figure. Moon Venus Fomalhaut, the fixed star, Fomalhaut, 3 degrees Pisces. Moon Venus Fomalhaut, a noble, regal, mothering, nurturing figure for the feminine. Certainly for her 2 daughters, so she has skin in the game, that she takes care of women and women's rights. Her sun Mars, she's a powerhouse. When you have a Sun Mars conjunction in your chart, if you're an individual, Sun Mars conjoined, isn't it, Laura and Sheila? Isn't that Sun Mars conjunction typical with firemen and rescue workers and policemen and military general? It's somebody who Mars, who's martial, who can lead.
People in the military, right? Yes.
So Michelle's chart, even though we all think she's told us she's not gonna, no way in hell is she gonna run, but her chart would be exactly the kind of healing this nation needs. And Laura, you said the North Node, a positive fate. Her North Node conjunct the sun of the U.S. chart. She would produce a positive fatality, a positive fatefulness, I should say, a fateful upwelling for the U.S. It would also be fateful because her sun Mars falls on the U.S. Pluto. Either she becomes a plutocrat herself, or she becomes a heroic force regarding plutocrats.
She would be a heroic. But anyway, who would be next? I would love if Michelle ran, but she's not.
Gavin Newsom? What do you think
What do
about
they have on him?
Gavin Newsom.
Again, he's saying he's not going to do it, but I think if any name comes forward, it would end up being him. I
think so too. So Gavin Newsom's chart, we could dig into that. One of the interesting things about his chart, ladies, is that he's got, some would call it by different terms, this gestalt, this overall chart gestalt. October 10th of 1967, 5:13 in the morning from San Francisco is Gavin Newsom. What's really a standout in Gavin's chart is he's got Saturn as a singleton planet, and then everything else in a bundle.
Yeah.
So this is called a fan pattern, like a Japanese fan, where the handle opens the whole fan. So we could sort of say Saturn, which describes cycles, of terra firma. You know, Saturn is cycles of 30-year orbit. So age 7, 14, 21, age 30. These 7 years of Saturn cycles are all about material reality. And Saturn opposes his sun directly. So the whole fan opens up by Gavin's Saturn. So he's got the chart of a can-do, pragmatic, practical Libra. I think of Jimmy Carter when I think of Librans.
Right. Right. Can we put it with the US chart and see how that looks?
Sure. So let's see. Okay, US and Gavin Newsom. So there's Gavin's chart wrapped around. Gavin has a moon in Capricorn.
Right.
That opposes the US sun.
Right.
So it says Gavin's emotional nature either is oppositional to the essence of the US or it is like a full moon. It's illuminating. It creates
Right.
illumination. In other words, Gavin's emotional state might be a de facto illumination of what the people of the US feel. So he's going to create illumination, perhaps, best case scenario. Gavin's sun falls right exactly conjunct the US Saturn. And since Gavin has Sun, Saturn opposing each other in his birth chart, if Gavin's Sun falls on the US Saturn, it means that Gavin's Saturn opposes the US Saturn as well.
Right.
So this again is a big restructuring. This is an indication of massive restructuring. Gavin also has his Mars opposing the US Mars. So Mars opposing US Mars, that would be the opposite of a war hawk.
Yeah.
That's someone who opposes jumping into military conflicts or creating military conflicts, willy-nilly or before their time. I want to throw up one wheel for us to look at, and that is Donald Trump with the US chart. And the reason I at this moment want to bring that up is Donald Trump's sun is exactly conjunct the US Mars. So Donald Trump's essence is martial. Donald Trump has Mars rising in his chart. He rises with aggression. So this is about aggression under Donald Trump.
He's got Mars right on his ascendant there. Yeah.
And Donald Trump's Mars ascendant conjunction, how Donald rises in terms of his own aggression. Donald Trump rises with aggression all the time, does he not? I mean, let's get real here. And there it is, that Mars rising in Donald Trump. That martial quality that Trump has, his martial quality opposes the moon of the US, opposes the feminine. Donald Trump's martial egoic identity opposes the moon of the US, opposes the moon in a nation's chart. The moon describes the people, and especially the female people, by the way. So here Donald Trump's chart shows in his Mars opposing the US moon that Donald Trump is definitely no supporter of women, not the general feminine in the US.
And we see that. So, okay.
So back to Newsom's chart, you asked, what do you both think about? I think the Mars opposing Mars in Gavin Newsom, his Mars opposing the US Mars, his sun conjoined the US Saturn.
So I to me, there's some good things about this chart, but there doesn't seem as strong as RFK's or Obama's, Michelle Obama's.
So who we have
what
next?
are your thoughts?
Yeah. What do you? Yeah, I guess yes, Alexander. What do you think about? Yay or nay?
I think you're quite right. I think you're right. I think Gavin Newsom's chart does not seem like a slam dunk with the U.S. chart. It has me wonder about another full moon personality. Donald Trump was born at the full moon. Biden's born just before the full moon, and Kamala Harris is born at the full moon, and Robert Kennedy Jr. is born during a full moon. They're all full moon people.
Yeah.
I always say when I interpret full moon, Laura and Sheila, that a full moon person having the sun on one side, the moon opposite in their chart, full moon brings illumination. So either you have a successful seesaw ride with opposition, or you have imbalance. Kamala's chart, born during a full moon, literally, astronomically, had the moon near Jupiter the night of her birth. It says her emotional moon nature is jovial, Jupiter, Jove.
It's, well, I mean, okay.
Well, astronomically speaking, it's 30 degrees away.
Yeah.
Roughly. And Sheila and I were looking telescopically. We're using scopes the other day and looking up at the moon, and we were measuring 30 degrees. Weren't we doing that just the other day, Sheila?
Yeah,
30
we were.
degrees. It's surprisingly close. It's surprisingly, visually, not too
Visually, it
far
looks
apart.
very close. Yes.
So an astrologer says, oh my God, it's almost a full 30 degrees, a full sign away, her moon Jupiter. The astronomer says, really? There's Jupiter right there.
Right.
Her character certainly is emotionally jovial. She has a ready laugh. She's got a jovial, she breaks into laughter very naturally and without holding back. She certainly is not stone-faced, right?
No.
Correct.
So let's look at, let's see.
Kamala with the US
Yeah,
chart.
let's look at it with the US
Yeah,
chart.
let's throw up the US chart.
Here's the United States. Here's Kamala. She's a Libra sun, just like Gavin Newsom is a Libra sun.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Gavin had a 16-degree Libra sun. Kamala has a 27 Libra sun.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Carter has a Libran sun. Kamala is, however, 3 days or 3 degrees away from being a Scorpio. And God
Right.
knows we see a
Degrees in
Scorpionic
Scorpio.
quality.
And you can see that. You can see that with her.
Yeah,
You know,
Kamala has a Scorpionic quality, kind of like Hillary Clinton, who is a Scorpio. There's a bit of it. She's a prosecutor, Kamala. She's nobody's fool. She's a strong
that's
woman.
right. That's right. Yes.
She's born during the full moon. Her moon's 27 Aries. Her sun's 27 Libra. Her sun and her moon both aspect the U.S. moon.
Right.
Interestingly, Kamala's Saturn, struggle, stress, patriarchy, Saturn. Saturn is also about fact and fact finding. Kamala's Saturn falls right on the U.S. moon, right on it. 28-degree Saturn for Kamala, 27-degree moon for the U.S. What do you ladies think about that Saturn moon conjunction?
Well, I certainly think it for her. I think it almost is like she is person to bring structure. She can be the task master, if you will, if needed be. And I think we see that with, she has been doing that along the ways, even though we haven't seen it up front, that she is the one who's bringing more structure and is able to really hone in. What do you think?
Would she be a protector of women too, also?
Oh, yeah.
Well, Saturn is a patriarch.
Mm-hmm.
So it says the best case with Saturn on the U.S. moon that she will take a patriarchal attitude, as Laura just said, in running the show, like really putting, she would sort of smack down. She will cut through the baloney and really get down to brass tacks about what needs to be done regarding women and women's rights. I also noticed that Kamala's Mars in Leo reminds me of somebody else's Mars, and that was Donald Trump. Donald Trump's Mars is in Leo as well, opposing the U.S. moon. Kamala's Mars is in Leo, opposing the U.S. moon. With Trump, we do know, with Trump, we do know his Mars opposing the U.S. moon means he is martially against women. That's true. Does it mean that with Kamala, is she against women?
No,
Well, we know she's not.
Right. We know she's going to be warrior for women.
Yeah. So we know that she would be a cheerleader and has been.
Also, too,
She's a champion for women.
Her moon is 27 degrees in Aries, aspecting the natal moon of the US, 27 degrees Aquarius.
Right.
Her moon is in excellent configuration to the moon
Right,
of the
that
US.
sextile
Her
there.
sun is an excellent 27 degrees of Libra,
Right.
27 Aquarius moon of US. Her sun is an excellent relationship as well to the US moon. Now we have a different thing. You know, that situation where Trump's Mars opposes the US moon, that is not a benefic. That is much more malefic. However, since Kamala's sun moon opposition is about, in this case, I think, illumination. In fact, I think jovial, Jupiter not far from that, I mean, jovial illumination. I think we have the women being supported. I think that Saturn, structure, hardship, making hard decisions. Saturn opposing Mars on the US moon says she's going to lower the boom if she's president on the US border. She's going to get the border under control. She's going to find ways to create structures that both support women and children at the border. And at the same time, she will command the border. That's what I think her chart says she will do, which, by the way, is what needs to be done, apparently, right?
Mhm.
Right. That does need to be done. That needs to be taken care of.
Interesting
And
comment.
And that's a hot button issue.
Yes.
That is a hot button issue. If you want to talk about, I think for some people, that is the issue. So,
Well, in terms of the the moon is the people of the nation, and also the womb and birthing. So the US moon at 27 Aquarius with her Saturn falling right on it, it defines, well, themes of birthing. Well, first of all, we darn well know when we look at Donald Trump and he has that Mars opposing the US moon, well, he's also opposing birth control. Here, I think that she's going to define themes of birthing and birth control. I think Kamala will say a way to manage the issues of women's rights and women's health and the health and wealth of the emotional body of the nation is to have people be able to make their choices about their family rather than taking away birth control. Actually, she may be more pro having more birth control. You know, rather than having abortion issues, have birth control issues, have family planning issues, have family management issues. Saturn is patriarchal planning. What do you think, Laura? And since you're both women, what do you both think about this idea of family planning, birth versus birth control?
I think you're onto something there. And I think,
yeah.
what were you going to say, Sheila?
No, so I agree, and that's why her aspect of Mars opposing the U.S. moon is different from Donald, because Saturn is there to say, no, let's bring some structure to this.
Right.
So I agree. So
I
Maybe
think
the issue is functional structure.
yeah. Okay. So I mean, that looks like a good fit. Thank goodness she's our VP
That's right. That's
for
right.
now, and let's hope that continues, or maybe become our president. So who's next?
Well, you know, also something, lastly, both Libra is at the top of the US chart. So any Libra president, any Libra potential has their sun in the career sector of the US chart. That's true of Kamala. That's true of
Newsom.
Gavin Newsom,
Mhm.
whose sun is up there in Libra at the top of the chart. That's true of Jimmy Carter. Now, some would say, God, Jimmy Carter was a fiscal nightmare for the United States, 1974. Not all Librans are cut from the same cloth. The bottom thing about all Librans is that they are conciliatory. They are the sign of balance, the two seasons,
Right.
autumnal equinox, the seasonal being balanced, portraying a rationally balanced personage is what a Libra is all about. That's Gavin Newsom. That's also Kamala. But where is Kamala here? She's here somewhere. I had the chart of Kamala. Where'd she go? There it is. There's her son.
Yeah.
So I know we've got to watch our time for this episode. Any last thoughts or questions or comments about other potential candidates. We'd spoken about a bunch of different people, and I'm wondering if anything's sort of left unsaid or undone.
I don't know. Was there anyone else whose name has really been floating around?
Pete
I-
Buttigieg, Andy Bashir, Wes Moore.
Yeah,
Those are
I
names.
don't see
yeah.
those. I just don't see, maybe Wes Moore, but I don't know if he's well known enough.
Right.
Wes
He's
Moore is
still,
another Libran. Wes Moore's birthday, October 15th, 1978.
Ah, look at
Another
that.
Libra.
He's young.
Wes Moore's Pluto sun is powerfully placed on the US chart. And unsurprisingly, if we take the chart of the US and we wrap Wes Moore in there around it,
Mhm.
we see Wes Moore's Libra sun with Pluto right on the US Saturn. Well,
Oh, yeah.
I know exactly. Well, first of all, he's not going to become the president. So Wes Moore, in terms of the US chart, what would he be known for? Well, Pluto's death and restructuring and rebirth. Saturn is physical structures.
Right.
Saturn rules the frame of the body. Saturn rules the bones and the actual, like framing carpentry. So what is Wes Moore known for?
Well, that bridge, right?
yeah,
Right.
that's how, yeah.
Right, the bridge collapse in Maryland. He's
collapse.
known for taking the bull by the horns with the bridge
right.
collapse, and in a very short order, opening that damn channel. And
Mhm.
you know, that having that channel open, it's a critical shipping route for the US financial infrastructure. And he
Mhm.
took the bull by the horns and made that happen.
Absolutely.
But when you look at his chart, you had said he wouldn't be president, right? You don't see it. You don't see him as presidential necessarily.
I don't see Wes Moore. I personally think he's awesome. I'd love to
Well, I
have
think
him
he'd be
as our president.
presidential. It's just that when you
Would
start
he
looking at,
become president? Yeah.
I mean,
Are we
when you
ready?
start looking at the candidates, I think and plus he's also a new governor. I don't see him switching out of it. I think he would stay committed to his governor role. And
Yeah, I think
maybe down the road, he would be a good candidate.
maybe down the road, right?
Mhm.
Well, Sheila, you said something very powerful. You thought that he would maintain loyalty to his role to the people. Well, look at
Mhm.
Wes Moore's chart. We don't know a time of birth, so ignore anyone watching this. Ignore that sunrise chart. Forget that. We don't have a time for him. So I just may do a sunshine chart, a sunrise chart to get a bearing of where planets are that day. October 15th of 78, Wes Moore. He's another full moon baby. And I always say full moon babies are born into a family system where the balance of mom and dad is a theme. And there's either good balance or bad balance. I think Wes Moore, I guarantee you, is an example of a good balance, meaning he's very much with that moon as the singleton planet in his chart. We saw the same thing with where was it now? Gavin Newsom. There it was, with Saturn as a singleton in this fan pattern. Saturn is structure. Gavin's central style is structure. This fellow, the moon, feeling, emotion, family, is his central pivot point of this chart. Wes Moore is all about women. Wes Moore is all about his mother. Wes Moore is all about the feminine. Wes Moore is all about nurturing. So Sheila, you're dead on. I think he would, even if they groomed him to be president, he would say, my main job right now is to be a governor, a young governor of Maryland, and to care for my state and my people. But I think he'd be a fantastic president.
Yeah, just like
Right now,
Gretchen, she's committed to stay with her state for now.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
So, how do we wrap this up? If not Biden, who? So we have good candidates. It's just a matter of how it all falls out in the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Right.
How do we wrap this up? Maybe we look at Joe Biden's chart because after all, he's sort of the center point of the discussion right now. And again, coming back to it, Pluto, big changes, opposite is Pluto, square his moon. These are significant indicators in a young person's chart. They are seriously big indicators in an older person's chart.
Yeah.
Saturn, Neptune at the bottom of his chart says he's going through foundational rumblings and challenges. The area of Biden's chart that's highlighted is partnerships. partnerships are super highlighted right now,
Yeah.
business partnerships particularly. And if we think about his cabinet and those who follow under him, they are the ones that have helped make his presidency arguably a great presidency economically.
Mhm.
Last note, Biden's a Sag rising.
Mm-hmm.
The U.S. is a Sag rising nation. The U.S. is a Sag rising nation, and Joe Biden is a Sag rising as well.
Now, that was interesting too, with Kamala. If the time is right for her, she's a Sag rising as well.
Wow, I missed that.
Yeah.
Very cool. How did I miss that? Where is Kamala? She's up here somewhere. I gotta bring a chart up again. No,
No,
Kamala is
yeah.
a Gemini rising.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sag
sorry.
descent. So
But
Okay,
Kamala's
it's
Sag descendant would
different.
place the U.S. ascendant at her marriage
Right.
angle. In other words, the essence of the U.S. would be a partnership theme for her. With Joe Biden, since the U.S. is a Sag rising, and Joe's got his son only 2.5 degrees from Sag, with Sag rising, it says Joe's identity is wrapped up with the mission statement of the U.S. The rising sign of a chart is always about its mission statement. The
okay,
rising
great.
sign describes how we rise to meet the outer world, and Sag is freedom.
Right.
The U.S. is freedom, and Joe Biden is about freedom. That's what his chart says.
Right.
Any last thoughts or comments?
Well, one of the things, if you throw up the transits over Joe Biden's chart, real quick.
Hold on, sorry. Thought I had him there.
So that's
Those are the major outers that I've got listed
right,
here.
right. But you see the opposition of Mars and Uranus in opposition to his stellium there in Scorpio, his Sun, Venus, Mercury, Mars, the Mars-Uranus conjunction. And Mars is going to go past it, but when I'm wondering even if we're going to see some health issues, something else coming up as Mars passes over that Uranus and really activates and like maybe makes more of an opposition to his Sun and his Venus.
Well, one thing we know is that Mars is a point of action, and
Mhm.
Uranus was discovered during French and American revolutions. So it's about revolution. So revolutionary explosive action in his sixth sector, sixth house of health,
That's what I'm saying.
opposing
Yeah.
his Mercury, opposing
Yeah.
his Sun. And
Yeah.
this is happening the next few days. So this
Yeah.
week, we're having this Mars-Uranus conjunction dead opposite Joe's Sun. And that would astrologically say what? That this should come to a head over the next few days, which we know
That's what I'm
logically
thinking.
astrology mirrors what is, astrology mirrors, what's happening.
Right.
So that's right on time that things could be absolutely explosive. I mean, I actually would be surprised if Joe chooses not to run any longer, but this opposition could be just that.
And
I mean,
you know,
this
and,
is-
and again, the 6th and 12th house, and both of those deal with health.
So
Yeah.
we shall see. We'll keep our eyes on the sky and
Yeah.
keep ourselves aware in the news.
And keep our prayers going.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So
Oh,
Well, thank you everyone for listening and viewing. We hope to have you come and share with us again. Thank you, dear Laura Sklover, for
Yes.
being our wonderful guest, host, and supporter of this endeavor today.
thank you both.
Again, Laura, you want to tell people how they can reach you?
Well, they can reach me at laurasklover@gmail.com, and that is LauraSklov, V as in Victor, ER@gmail.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Awesome.
We're going to have Laura join us again. So if you didn't have a chance to connect more with her this time, because Alexander's doing his Alexander rap. Well, then we'll have next time I'll back up and maybe Laura will run some computer programs for us.
No, you were great. You're
Yeah.
always
All right,
wonderful.
folks. Yeah.
All right,
Thank you
thanks
so much,
everybody.
ladies.
Leave
Thank
us
you,
some
viewers.
All right,
comments
thank
and
you.
we'd love
Thank
to
you
hear
for
from
having
you.
me. Bye,
Yes.
y'all.
See you again.
Okay.
Blessings.
Bye.